a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Okay, cool. It's taken away the time. Now it's ticking, so the broadcast is starting. So we 9-10 seconds into it. So probably.
Well, good evening. This is a very exciting night, and I trust that as we begin to talk about the topic of being wild at heart, that you are to get excited about the future that lies ahead. My name's Glen McQuirk, and looking forward to sharing this message with you. And as you can see, I'm not at the normal place where I do my presentation. I'm currently standing in front of a fire that's about to start burning, and I trust that we will see some flames at some point this evening. But I was just thinking today, as I was walking around in the wild, as it is, and as I was beginning to look at the wildlife that surrounds the place where I'm at, enjoying the animal life, the bird life, even seeing fish jumping out in the water to me, I saw a sense of freedom that every living creature seems to display. And this sense of freedom, being absolutely able to do whatever you want to do, when you want to do it, how you want to do it, seems to be built in not only the creatures around me, but inside my own heart and inside your heart. And I know, as I share that idea with you this evening, that you feel the same way, that there's been times where you've felt a sense of just breaking free, getting free from the shackles of the system that we find ourselves in. As I was thinking about this, I realized again that message that I've shared before with you, that we are mandated for such a time as this. We have been anointed with special gifts and talents. We are fully provided for, and we are deployed to do what we were born to do right now, right this minute. And so this evening, I just want to share some thoughts around that, because after all, it's the middle of the work week. 3 days of work have passed. 2 days of work lie ahead for every single person that is living in the system. And I know that tonight already, some of you are feeling exhausted. Maybe you're starting to look forward to the weekend. You're beginning to wish that the weekend itself was what life was all about. But yet, on Monday morning, when that alarm rings, you get yourself ready, you pack your bags, you put your sandwiches in the box, if you do those kind of things, you head off into the traffic to go and start the same thing you did the week before. And this continues every day, every week, every month, every year, for more than 40 years of a person's life. And when I say 40 years, I'm talking about your work life, but it starts long before. It starts the day your parents take you to your first form of school. For some people, it's at the age of 6 months already. For others, it might be when they're 3 or 4 years old. I don't know when it began for you, but it was at a very young age that we were taught that life is about doing things according to someone else's instruction, obeying orders, clocking in and clocking out. I don't know about you, but I'm sick and tired of that kind of system. It took me just 5 years, or in fact, it wasn't 5 years, just 2 weeks of working in the normal workspace to realize that after 4 years of studying at university, this was definitely not what I was born to do. But I endured it for a period of 5 years to pay back the bursary commitments that I had. I then thought that maybe the way to break free was to start my own business, to be my own boss. And I began a consulting business, which I continued to operate for another 10 years or so. And you know, the answer wasn't in that either. Again, in that space, I had people out there that had a demand on my time. They wanted to control what I did. And so I think that you and I are truly wild at heart. We want to go back to our original mandate, which was to go into all the earth and to have dominion, to control things. In a sense, to almost recreate the Garden of Eden. I think that's what we're called to do. But what are we doing? We are doing the very opposite. You might be working like Henny and myself. Maybe we spend time behind the computer screen from time to time, and we think that we're not doing any damage to the environment. Yet, somewhere there are machines that are operating enormous energy just so that we can sit and operate on a screen right now this evening. And those machines that are using up an enormous amount of energy are partly destroying the very environment that we are in. It almost seems as if we want to destroy everything to get our hands on the gold that is buried in the soil, to find the oil. We're willing to go to war to take hold of territories. You see, wherever there's a war happening in the world today, somebody is after some kind of resource. They're wanting to take control. They're wanting to dominate others. We were never born to dominate other people. We were born to have dominion. Dominion is something that you have in a kingdom concept. Kingdom has a domain over which he resides, where he sets the rules and standards. And it's not about dominating other people, but rather keeping the weeds under control out in the environment, to look after the space that we're in. So here I am in the middle of the wild tonight. It might not look like it where I'm standing, but I'm surrounded by nothing but wildlife. And as I've been looking at that, I've had a deep sense that I too was created free, just like the animals, the birds, the fish, and every other living creature that I see, like the plants, the grasses, the trees. And there's a sense inside of it that that's what we are striving for, yet we've accepted to be controlled by the system we find ourselves in. A lot of people, when they've been working in the system just for 10 to 15 years, already feel that they are so committed to other things. For example, they bought themselves a house, they've taken out a bond, they've bought a car, the bank's money, they've got themselves so deep into it that they see no way out. And they have, in a sense, sacrificed themselves to the system within which they operate. I think there is an alternative. In fact, I don't even think there's an alternative. I think there's an original template that you and I were born to operate in. In fact, our body operates according to that original template. We can see that it functions by design. All the cells know when to do it. We don't even need a vaccination for our body to be able to fight anything that comes to destroy it. And although we function like we were designed to function, we were given a free will. Free will allows us to put whatever we choose into this body. And many people make really silly choices when it comes to what they put into their body. But the body itself functions according to the way it was designed. And so if I look at my inner being, it is functioning according to an original design, something which I don't influence unless I put chemicals into this body. Everything outside of me functions according to its original design. But there seems to be this thin little layer between this inner world and the outer world that we see, that is my free will, or that is the system in which we think we must operate and function. I don't think it's a big step for us to take to free ourselves from that system. And instead of striving to be employed, become deployed. You see, when I mentioned those words, mandated, anointed, provision, destined, what I was saying is that if I have been created, if you have been created for such a time as this, it means that there was a purpose, there was an idea, there was something for which you were sent to live. Not to exist, but something to live for. Not only something to live for, but something where you literally create life, in a sense. Once that was known, all the gifts and talents necessary for you to fulfill that mandate were then packaged inside. So you came with everything already inbuilt in order to fulfill your mandate. Now, if you've been mandated by God, you've been anointed by Him, then it is clear that it's His responsibility to provide for the mandate. Because whenever someone is deployed, they are unleashed, set free. It is the responsibility of the person who sets them free, the person who deploys them, to provide for the mandate that they were deployed to fulfill. That means, in my opinion, that we are wild at heart. We are born, we desire to go on an adventure. We want to break free. We want to step out into the unknown. We want to do things that have never been done before. We want to discover things that have not been discovered. We want to name things that have not been named. There are so many things that we would love to do. We want to go and explore the world, explore uncharted territory. We were never born to live in the safety of the system. We were born to transform the system. In fact, we were born to maybe eradicate the system that currently exists. All of the things that you and I feel stressed by in this world can be ascribed to the very system that we have made ourselves, or that we have submitted to. I think the time to transform the system has come. And maybe you tonight also have that sense. I think it's time that we start acting as if we have been deployed and not talking as if we are employed. You were born to be someone, not something. And that talks to the idea of being wild at heart. As the fire begins to glow behind me, let something begin to burn in your heart tonight and awaken that inner desire to fulfill the purpose for which you were created. I've enjoyed sharing this message with you. I look forward to seeing you every Wednesday and Thursday, same time, same place. After this short break, Henny will be joining me, and we're going to take this discussion a little bit further. See you just other side of the commercial. Okay, Jenny, this is an exciting evening, and I trust you can hear me that side. I'm standing with lightning flashing all around me, and a lot of thunder in the distance, and it seems to be coming from your direction. So apologies if the picture or the sound has been a little bit broken. I can assure you that my sound coming from my voice to the computer has been fine. Good to have you on the show.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to be here again.
Henny, you've been, listening to this idea of wild at heart. What thoughts did it begin to conjure up in your own mind?
I think the one thing that stood out was really almost, let's call it the system, the shield, the layer, whatever we want to call it, that's actually preventing us from doing what we're supposed to do. And I think the one thing in my mind, if I want to really put a label to it, was really thoughts. It is whatever they put in my mind that makes me think different, that's preventing me from continuing. So I think that was the key thing for me that stood out. I read a very interesting quote this week when David had to go and battle Goliath. He could either see the giant in front of him, or he could see how big his God was, and he decided to pick that side. So it is just, what is my thought? What am I thinking? And if my thinking is correct, then whatever layer or system the world is going to throw at me is not going to make a difference.
I think one of the trappings of this world, I sort of touched on it briefly, is debt, and it's not just debt; it's what drives debt, and how eager we are to prove to others that we are doing okay. And in the process, we borrow money that maybe we shouldn't borrow. And we then become indebted. And that keeps us kind of shackled, in a sense, to the system. And so money seems to be the very core ingredient to keep the system going around. They say money makes the world go round. And I think in the context of the system that I'm talking to, the system is governed by money. And the way to make that system work is to indebt every person that's in it, so they're forced to work the system. And so debt is a key player. For you to break free from the system means to be without debt. And you don't have to get out of debt as such. Maybe you just need to get rid of all the things that have indebted you.
Yeah, I think it's true. Money makes the world go round. Lack of money prevents me from living my dream. Is a follow-up on that. And I think that is so untrue. Money might make things a lot easier, but you can still do what you need to do. I mean, it's the same logic with load shedding. Load shedding for me right now is actually a blessing, because at the time that I don't need anything, I just need a little bit of battery power, and I can do what I need to do. I am using that time right now to write a book. So I've got lots of time with lots of load shedding. So if the power goes off in 40 minutes, it's time for me to start writing again. So you can look at something that the world throws at you, but if you've got a vision, if you've got focus, if you've got a vision board, you know where you're going, then nothing can stand in your way. Then the world can throw whatever it wants to. You will just move past it.
You know what is amazing? Early this morning, I took a walk through the area where we are at the moment, and there were three giraffe that we met up with, and I say met up with. You know, they were maybe 50 meters from where we were standing, and they were all three of them were intently looking at us in the same way we were looking at them. And I was just wondering, what's going through their mind? Because I knew what was going through my mind. I was wondering what is going through their mind as they looking at me. They're probably looking and saying, that idiot is living this life, chasing after all the provision that he finds necessary. Yet here I am, and I'm surrounded by abundance. There's so many trees that I eat from that are being provided, that are growing. It just seemed like such a different life. Yet I have a deep sense that I too can live free like that giraffe. What is it that's holding me to this system, I wonder?
I'm thinking it's a mindset. I'm thinking it's a mindset. I'm trying to think what that saying is. When you're in the forest, you can't see the tree. You can't see the wood.
You can't see the wood for the trees.
Exactly, and I think that's the case. When you're indebted, you just, I can't do this because I don't have money. You always have that kind of mindset. But if you start changing things, and if you start seeing things differently, if you start waking up in the morning, not saying, "Oh no, I need to go back to the job, to my job again. I need to go and work. I need to go and do XYZ." But if you stand up saying, "I am so blessed because another day was added to my life. What am I going to do with this day?" I think it all revolves around that. To say, abundance is there. Some people just don't see it, and I think it's just changing your mindset to say, everything I need is around me. Everything I need is inside me. I must just see it and must just start using it.
I was one of the thoughts that I was having is that I've often drawn a diagram of a circle, and I've talked about the idea of I've drawn a U inside of the circle, and saying that most people are focused on me, myself, and I. And it's in the circle stuff which is focused on success. And outside the circle is about others, and it's about significance. And I was thinking about this probably for the last week or two. And I suddenly thought, there's a feeling that I'm in the system and I need to get out of the system. I kind of move out of the system. It's enough. I need to get on the outside. And then the thought came to me that, but maybe I am the system. And that if I start looking at how my body functions, many parts working together as one unit, that maybe that's the system that I'm supposed to be modeling. And so in that context, there is no competition. Every cell in my body is working together for one purpose. And maybe we as people should be functioning in a similar kind of way. But just getting, so the idea was, am I in the system? Am I out the system? Or am I the system? And when I say the system, I'm talking about a different system to the one that we're in. I'm talking about a completely different approach, one that values the uniqueness of each individual, as opposed to trying to constantly separate one another. What are your thoughts on this idea of being in, out of the system?
I'm wondering if we're not putting too much focus on the system and saying, let's try and get out of it, do what we need to do. Maybe you're right. Maybe we are the system, and what we need to do is we need to focus on making the system that we are as good as we can. And I mean, we're talking about leadership, and leadership of self, I think, comes to mind big time right now. We need to make sure that whatever we do is not focused on ourselves. And I think that is the key thing, the difference for me. And I think that's the big thing that stands out when I think Map for Life is really the shift from success to significance, because that's big. If you start thinking about other people, it makes a big difference. I I play a sport called Yxk. Not a lot of people know what it is, but I play Yxk. And on Saturday I was playing a game against two younger boys, and it was doubles. It was just the two of us, and they were sort of in the game, but not really in the game. And it came to exactly the last throw of the dice. So this dude just needed to get something. And I started giving the guy advice, and I said, listen, if you do this, if you do this, if you do this, that could be enough. And my partner playing with me just looked at me. You're saying you're setting this guy up to win the game. And I said, it's not about us winning the game. It's about the sport. It's about building this guy up. If he gets it going, if he does it right, fantastic. Let him do that. That's going to make him stronger. He's going to make a difference to other people. So I think that's the shift that needs to happen. We need to focus on other people and forget doing what we need to do.
Henny, I see that you are expecting the storm that I can see in the distance is getting rather close, and so I'm kind of catching half. Maybe you're also catching half of what I'm saying on your side. I think to some extent, when I see the storm in the distance, I wonder if it's not a reflection of the turmoil that is going on within us in terms of the system that we feel like we are trapped in. You know, so many trying to perform really well in the system. They're trying to win the race. They're trying to be the best. They're trying to climb the ladder, when actually there's a complete freedom awaiting us, and we just have to step out. And maybe that stepping out is to step out in on your heart, something that you know you've come to deliver. You have started a book. It's kind of something that's, and maybe this is just the time for us to begin to do those things. So as that storm and the lightning and everything is crashing in the distance and affecting our broadcast this evening, maybe it's that same power that's inside of us that's waiting to be unleashed. And to unleash it just requires a small step of faith. You know, to start writing a book, all you have to do is take a piece of paper and write down the title. Take a piece of paper, write down the chapter headings. Take a piece of paper, write down some key points. That's it. It's as simple as that. And so I think because of the storm and the rain that's starting, I think a successful, or let's say a night that is the breakup. It's been wonderful to spend you, and I trust that for those who've been tuned in or that watch this broadcast, that you'll also get some value of it. Annie and myself are born to be unique, one-of-a-kind individuals with a purpose in our heart that needs to be manifested. We weren't born to dance to someone else's tune. And as long as we are helping someone else's dream come a reality, as we feel locked or in. Great quote earlier this week. It went like this: a bird by a cage. It's very powerful to systems that we are referring to tonight. The one has caged us, the other one sets us free. And the question we've got to ask ourselves tonight is which, the one of freedom or the one where we are caged and someone else feeds us every day? I've enjoyed this with Henny, and we can end.
Glen, can you still hear me?
I can, Henny.